Hello everyone, this is Clint Macro with the Trigger Pressers Union. In honor of Patriots Day, I'm going to show you how to use a muzzleloading rifle. April 19th, 1775, Patriots from all across New England answered the call because the Redcoats were coming to Lexington to capture Sam Adams and John Hancock, and also to go on to Concord to confiscate their arms. Before we begin, let's just cover the safety rules that are used in the NRA and the NMLRA muzzleloading classes. Always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. Always keep your finger off of the trigger until you're ready to shoot. And always keep the gun unloaded until you're ready to use. In the case here with the muzzleloaders, we're going to prepare them in the loading area, but we won't prime or cap them till we're at the firing line. Never use modern smokeless powder in a muzzleloader. Only use black powder or a substitute like Pyrodex, something that's an approved substitute. Always consult the owner's manual or contact the manufacturer to see exactly what works best in the particular gun that you have. Black powder or white smoke, it's a wonderful smell. Always use a powder measure. Never pour directly from the powder horn or from the can into your rifle. So we first find the measurement that we want to use. Now, of course, you want to consult the manufacturer's guidelines of any of the equipment that you have. But a general rule of thumb is for a rifle, if it's, say, for instance, 45 caliber, then starting off with 45 grains of black powder is an appropriate lower end load that you can start with. We'll use this powder measure and we'll pour the powder into it. Pour the powder from the powder measure into the muzzle. There's no way to work with a muzzleloader without working around the actual end of the gun, the muzzle, but we don't want to hang over top of it. Using a clamp like this that we can perch the gun against a bench securely is a great way to do this. We don't want to smoke while we use muzzleloaders. Smoking's not a good idea anyhow. Next, we want to use patch. There's all kinds of different patch you can use. You can actually use pillow ticking and cut it yourself with a knife. I have some pre-cut patches that are specific to this caliber of gun. You can lube the patch. Actually, you should lube the patch. You can use some type of boar butter, or you can do a good old spit patch and just chew it up and get some spit on it. Now with the spit patch, I don't recommend doing that if you're going to go out hunting, because the spit and the saliva on the patch could cause rust inside of the bore. Take the lubricated patch and place it on top of the muzzle, and then take your ball and place it on top of the patch. Start the ball with a ball starter. This will get the ball seated in the top of the muzzle. Then you can take the ball starter short end and put it down inside. Then take your ramrod and we'll go ahead and ram it home. Want to make sure it's rammed all the way down. Use a priming tool and 4F powder to prime the flintlock. Loading a single-shot muzzleloading pistol is pretty much the same as loading a rifle. One difference is our starting load, we're going to start with half of what the caliber is. So for instance, with this 45 caliber single-shot pistol, I'm going to start with around 22 grains of triple F powder. I figured while we're up at the range, we'd shoot the black powder revolvers. So I figured I'd change my hat too. These black powder revolvers certainly weren't around during the time of Lexington and Concord, but they might have been carried by some of the Bucktail Regiment. The Bucktail Regiment were riflemen from Cameron, McKean, Potter counties up in the north central part of the state. They jumped on a log raft in Driftwood, Pennsylvania, my hometown, and they floated down the rivers to meet up with the rest of the Army and serve the Grand Army of the Republic. First, you want to place the revolver on half cock. This will allow us to rotate the cylinder. We want to make sure that there aren't any percussion caps on the nipples. Once you've verified that, you can use a loading box like this or a loading stand. We would measure our powder, pour it into the powder measure, and then we go through and load each individual chamber using the loading rod to set the ball into the chamber. We're going to go ahead and load the entire cylinder using this loading tool. So first off, we're going to measure the powder. Just like with the single shot pistol, we're going to use roughly half of the caliber. This particular gun's a 44 caliber, so we're going to use just a shade over 20 grains of 3F powder. Put it into the chamber. Then we're going to go ahead and use a little bit of filler. I like to use cream of wheat, but they also make wads and different products that you can use. This will just level out the powder that we use so that we can get the projectile a little bit higher. The amount you use, you just got to kind of eyeball it. After a while, you'll kind of get a feel for it. Put the ball on the press. It should have these little shavings on it. With a revolver, you don't use a patch, but the ball actually kind of shaves itself in there and seals the chamber. Once the chamber's sealed, then I like to use some type of grease. This is Crisco in a syringe, and we'll just put a little bit of Crisco on there. That will help to lubricate and make it easier to keep the bore clean. It's recommended to leave one chamber empty, and we'll put the hammer down on that empty chamber. Once we get to the firing line, we're going to cap all of the nipples. It's important to cap all of them, even if you have one chamber empty. This will prevent it from having a chain fire. So to disassemble the Colt, we pull the wedge pin, and we can take the barrel apart, take the other cylinder off, put this cylinder on, put the barrel back on it, and we'll put the wedge pin back in. Now we're ready to cap it. We're going to use these number 10 Remington percussion caps. They're very similar to those caps we used to play with in cap guns when we were a kid. You should always cap your revolver at the firing line. I'm going to use this capping tool, which contains the caps in there so they're a little easier to apply. This gun is capped. And ready to go. And this will be the dry fire. Now we got to go home and clean these guns. It's important that you clean your muzzleloading guns as soon as you can. The black powder is very corrosive and can cause rust inside of the bore. I like to clean mine with hot soapy water, just hot water and Murphy's oil soap. Everyone's got their own favorite product to use, but I like Murphy's because it gets it clean and it smells lemony fresh. After they're dry, then I'll put a light coat of oil on them just to keep them from rusting. Go on to triggerpressersunion.com onto the schedule page to find upcoming courses that I have scheduled, including muzzleloading classes. Also, visit the library page. There you can find videos and articles and other content that I've produced to help you be better well-regulated. Also, check out Meet the Pressers, starring Matt Mallory and Clint Macro. Meet the Pressers is our show on YouTube, and it's a safe place for all trigger pressers, all folks that exercise their Second Amendment rights, to talk about training, gear, gadgets, politics, and political activism. This is Clint Macro with the Trigger Pressers Union. We'll see you next time. In the meantime, stay safe and well-regulated.